Was it a good job to be an official in the Middle Ages? What kind of official is better? Dear time traveler, I am your medieval advisor, New White. I heard you have a soft spot for officials. This time I will give you a tour of the Middle Ages. Customize a set of official plans. So let's start with this. You need to briefly understand the concept of medieval officialdom. The official system varies from country to country. Give a few representative examples. Early Middle Ages. The most typical official system came from the Frankish kingdom. He wrote about the institutions of the Roman period. Commitment and change. The officials of the Frankish Malavan dynasty were mainly composed of palaces, court officials and local officials. A large number of officials gathered in the king's court. Ariomia miomia, secretary lawsuits magwan, treasurer, etc. These duties were originally taken from the king's rank, or obey. At worst, it's a dog's choice. Later, he gradually began to choose from the nobility. The most powerful of these are jobs. He was originally in charge of court finances and the local royal family. Palace officials of the manor, above the sheriff. At the beginning, there is no power to rule. In the 7th century, its status gradually increased. It's getting closer and closer to the literal meaning. Later work items. Power almost overrides the monarch, and then they stop pretending. Just turn the table over and be the master. The Carolingian dynasty replaced the Malavans. It is the result of the palace minister not yet, and many of the local customs and later dukes. Marquis and count. The vocabulary of the viscount is in the same vein. For example, the count is the most mainstream magistrate. The former site of the Roman Empire in Yangtze, the kingdom of the Franks. Divide the country into many city-centric administrative regions. Similar county. The king sends a sheriff to rule. The word of this sheriff. It is the same as the earl later said. The later viscount was now the deputy of the sheriff. The duke is tall. A military officer can be understood as a trial governor. They were one of Frank's most senior officials. The soldiers are often candidates for military command. The marquis is the military commander of the frontier. In addition, the Frankish monarch will also send the court inspector to supervise the magistrates, to keep them from becoming kings. With Caroline, the establishment of the feudal talent system in the times. The system is also gradually declining. And Peasant, the court empire was an empire that lasted throughout the Middle Ages. His official system is very different from that of Western European countries. His bureaucracy, obviously more than. The feudal state of talent was more sophisticated. In the vast imperial bureaucracy, many official titles were set, then a title of nobility, and military titles are more diverse. In military Zedenberg, there are hundreds of bureaucrats serving the empire. They wore hierarchical uniforms, wear a giant hat to reflect identity. Of course, the Byzantine supply system changed over time. Adjustments and changes are always being made. The officials of the empire were very diverse. Vocabulary spelling is also very complicated. It's incredibly confusing. It is highly recommended that you use Quark AI search. Keep track of the name of each official system. A title was developed in the 9th century and was mentioned many times. There are also regional or regional military commanders, generals. He later also became the administrator of a military region. Ruler. Like this complex string of official title spellings, you can also stay on standby with Quarks at any time. Below, I will introduce you to the Chinese Empire in different eras, more representative institutions and official positions. Sir. This job. A former commander of the Reverend Army of the Roman Empire, when Descartes Lee ruled, and made him a senior administrator. A commander is no longer in command of the army, but the general military and administrative staff in charge of the emperor act as the emperor's assistant for respected officers of the Eastern and Western empires, responsible for managing the fraught, one of the jurisdictions. The jurisdiction of reverence is the late Roman Empire, the largest administrative district. The Austrian officers at this time almost took over the military, administrative justice, and other powers. One person is above 10,000 people. In the years that followed, the right to revere their superiors is further weakened. Military incident. Deprived of the military command of the revered commander. Logistics only. At this time, a prefect is the highest administrative office of the empire. This position was abolished in the 7th century AD. That is to say, the secretary or migilson. From the 6th to the 12th century, senior book officer in the Byzantine court, mainly responsible for official records, administrative and financial management, etc. The chief first basic medicine secretary of the basic medicine secretary, or call out and wait for Meg to do it. A high-ranking civil servant, responsible for handling the emperor's secrets, documents and important matters, was a key advisor and assistant to the emperor. The treasurer was born in the 7th century. One of the chief financial officers of the empire, managed the imperial treasury, mainly responsible for financial affairs such as the wall. By the end of the empire, this department became the country's only senior finance department. In addition to diplomacy, ministers of various departments such as taxation and civil affairs, also important senior officials. Their chief is something like a modern prime minister. Local official. The trend of true everything is more obvious. General. Governors and other official positions hold local power. Fengjiang Dali. The era when the military region system was implemented. Military generals are not only responsible for leading troops to war, also responsible for conscription, tax justice, local administration, etc. Almost everything in the military district, from the peak to the end of the Middle Ages. In a more typical official position, officials were usually the eyes of feudal monarchs, directly responsible to the king himself. Therefore, the whole process of work, not many of the later feudal fruits of talent. The thing about lifting the table, gradually produced in the royal serum, not the whole city. For example, after the Norman conquest of the Kingdom of England, the king appointed many central and local officials. They were both the king's personal advisors and the muliao. It is also the central administrative body of the country. The two are basically indistinguishable from each other. Many times, they are also responsible for the royal family's food, clothing, housing, and transportation, daily life, even help the king wipe his butt. It's not an exaggeration to say it's a domestic servant group. However, for example, during the reign of William the Conqueror, also briefly set up the slaughter of power approximation work items. Related position. He can exercise his political rights when he is not in the country. But he came home one time, and he realized something was wrong. The position was soon abolished. These officials were mainly composed of nobles and the clergy. Nobles are easy to understand. Clergy were cultural figures in the Middle Ages. Being a civil servant is naturally appropriate. For example, the end of the 13th century, Lord Chancellor of the Kingdom of England, and many officials in the judiciary, often held by clergy. In order to balance the power of the nobles, the King of England often allows some lower-ranking nobles or riders shredding local police. During the reign of Wilhelm II, the king will deliberately choose knights and minor nobles loyal to the royal family serve as counties. Shu also regularly rotates positions. Later, the knight waited for the sheriff. There are more and more examples of local officials such as county ranks. This gave the lower nobles more talent, chance to land, especially the Wang knights, who were replaced by the king, have more opportunities to hold these official positions, and the king's reuse often also further inspires the loyalty of these knights. In addition, some officials are also open to civilians, for example, article officers, etc. Take a look back. Each of these three official systems has its own characteristics. Frank's bureaucracy was decentralized, a situation that is prone to monopolization. Feudal talent official system in England. Officials are highly controlled by the monarch, but in the absence of the monarch, efficiency will be greatly reduced and coexist. It is also easy to have conflicts between lords and administrators. Conflict and friction. Byzantium's official position is the most complex and huge, subdivided bureaucracy. Positions that go into every detail of imperial management, but institutions that are too large are prone to corruption, failure, or waste of resources, slowly eroding the foundations of the empire. Therefore, you must think carefully in the selection process. After all, the advantage framework. Don't worry about not being able to start. Blind analysis. Here we go. I will recommend 3 good official positions for you to choose, for a brief analysis of the opportunities and wins of their existence, risk significance and advantages and disadvantages. I hope you can make a careful choice. First up is the Frank Project. For you, work item. The biggest opportunity lies in the control of power. You have every opportunity to replicate the example of the Carolingian dynasty, moving towards a brighter future. Don't worry, I am your loyal friend. Nature will hold on to this lofty ambition for you. Of course, excessive concentration of power necessarily comes with risks. You must beware of the king's suspicions and enemy attacks, and with power comes responsibility. It's hard for you to be immune to this kind of high position. If you don't have the will to show your talent, do not choose this position. So it seems. Chief article for England. The View is a good choice. His benefits. It is not easy to get involved in too many rights disputes, even when the two armies are facing each other. Can be used as spectators. Scarce resource in the Middle and Late Middle Ages. Many princes and nobles would be willing to pay a lot of money to hire exceptional article officers serve them well. And of course, he doesn't have that much power. But if you are a bit cultured, people who like art and don't want to be involved in the controversy, the choice of article View is still very good. This is really important. Men Jiangyuan's requirements for birth are not high. It is entirely possible for someone in a civilian capacity to own knowledge, hold this official position, serve the king. If you really just want to get down to business, the revered prefect of Byzantium is my recommended position. He is an emperor with a high position in Amand. In a series of adjustments, almost lost the function of military command. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the danger of getting involved in war. Even as a commander, personal safety is guaranteed. The humiliation of defeat and punishment is still very unpleasant, and the next officer has a high status in administrative justice. And there are also great regulations in areas such as local management, jurisdiction. If you can serve the empire with dedication, he will surely become the emperor's trusted right-hand man. Of course, good and bad don't fall from the sky. The analysis also analyzed. The most important thing now is, get the job you want. It's a two-way street. Rather than applying for these positions, you should demonstrate your worth to the monarch. Why don't we use the strengths of the old time and space? Do a resume. Highlight your qualifications and abilities. Quick say I resume assistant. You can quickly fill in your educational experience. Basic information such as work experience. Export to generate a beautiful job resume. Quark can intelligently polish the content of your resume. It saves you the trouble of repeatedly modifying it. Quark even, according to the job position and job content. Even interview questions. Give a review of the interview. Answer ideas and reference answers. Not only are there unique miracles in your journey through the afterlife, the practicality before crossing is also very strong. You can also use the AI writing function. Get some inspiration. Help write your essay on this official position and the concept of a national development strategy. Submit to the monarch. I believe this will definitely work for you. Seeking the road to increase blood and more points. Okay, finally, I would like to summarize for you. Successfully become one. An important plus for medieval officials. You can combine the identity determined after crossing. Reasonable play of the corresponding advantages. Select the appropriate official position. Number 1. Aristocratic birth and family power. A necessary bargaining chip in these times. But sometimes the titles and power of nobles are too great. On the contrary, it is easy to be feared by the monarch. In many times, a capable monarch, little nobles who will be more loyal. For example, the Kingdom of England in the Middle Ages and the Late Middle Ages. A civil and military knight. It is easy to get the country. The reuse of the king if you are unfortunate enough to cross into a commoner. Then choose the article View and this kind of less attention. Official position. Second, a good relationship with the monarch. This can often lead directly to your appointment. Many officials were originally just servants of the monarch, even eunuchs injected into Byzantium. If you have the opportunity to approach your favorite monarch, even if you are a lowly servant, Stay by their side. It is likely that one day it will be revisited. Of course, is it worth being a eunuch? It's up to you to choose. The third Tao in the chest. Smartly observing nature is a necessary ability on the road of onlookers. You're lucky to come from a modern civilization thousands of years later. Learn more about history. Learn from history. You can not only send. The monarch hands over a satisfactory answer sheet. You can even cheat in advance. Avoid the risks ahead for the monarch. Of course, advisor. I will also do my best to help you improve the qualities and skills of spectators in the Middle Ages. The most basic project is understand the official system of medieval countries in the near future, and I'm going to show you what's going on in each country. You must firmly grasp this knowledge, guaranteed to be foolproof. Fourth, in which era is the network? Are important resources for great things, up to the royal family, aristocrats and bureaucrats at all levels, down to the grassroots knights and even ordinary soldiers' artisans. They are all good assistants for you to watch on the road. I will do my best. Open up the joints for you. Fifth, religious education. It was a very important one in the Middle Ages. It's a very distinctive ability. Familiar with canon law education and other disciplines, it can help you gain more valuable opportunities. If you hold a priesthood yourself, that's the first choice for officials in many places. For example, Secretary Keo of Pope Leo IX. It's Amber of the Bishop of Books Mermug. Get in touch. Church connections are also crucial, especially when cultivating officials in various countries. If the relationship with the Roman Church is hard, it would be much easier to do anything. Sixth, some highly professional officials. You need to have certain special skills. For example, article officers need to have a deep interest in article studies. I have also briefly introduced the subject to you. You can take out the information from the collection cabinet. Repeated review. In addition to that, it also requires strong diplomatic negotiation skills. Financial officials, then, requires digital and financial skills and sensitivity. Military officials naturally have to understand strategy, well informed about logistics and so on. You must plan your skills in advance, addressing the corresponding challenges. Last, appropriate or macro. Big ambition is also an essential mindset for onlookers. Watching you together as your friend, the minister will never be able to turn over to the top one day. It's also a better way out. Please make sure to reserve a suitable official position for me at that time. I wish you all the best. See you next time.